We have done the 50s, we have done the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. But we have been deliberately avoiding this decade because frankly it hurts. These are the bikes that poster-covered your garage wall when you were in your 30s. These are the machines you promised yourself you would own someday. The 2000s produced the most savage, deranged, technically brilliant motorcycles ever assembled, and the modern industry has spent 20 years trying to top them and mostly failing. 15 bikes, all specs on screen. One honest case for why each one still destroys what the dealerships are selling today, and prices that will make you question every decision you have made. Number 1 is the bike that rewrote the laws of physics. Let us go. Number 15, Yamaha YZF-R1, 2004 to 2006. Before Yamaha introduced the cross-plane crankshaft that changed the superbike world, they built this. The 2004 to 2006 R1 is the machine that made every other manufacturer's engineers book emergency meetings on a Monday morning. 998cc, inline-4, 172 horsepower, 175 miles per hour, and a titanium exhaust system. Yamaha used aerospace-grade titanium for the headers and mufflers straight from the factory to shave weight. Modern bikes make you buy that aftermarket. The 2004 R1 came stock with aerospace material. The case against a new Yamaha MT-10 SP, over $20,000, 477 pounds. A 2005 R1 in clean condition weighs 436 pounds and makes similar power. Lighter, more focused, $14,000 cheaper. A clean 2004 R1 runs $4,000 to $6,500 right now. For a bike that was a genuine factory superbike when new, the math is so offensive it should probably be illegal. The 2004 R1 is where Yamaha stopped apologizing for how fast they built things. The machine at number 14 did not apologize either. It simply invented the modern 1-liter class and dared anyone to keep up. Number 14, Suzuki GSX-R 1000, 2001 to 2002. This is the original, the first one, the GSX-R 1000, that arrived in 2001 and immediately made every existing superbike feel embarrassed about its weight and its power output. 988cc, inline-4, 160 horsepower, 186 miles per hour claimed, and an aluminum twin-spar frame. Suzuki built a frame that was simultaneously the structural backbone of the motorcycle and a component light enough to bring total wet weight to just 455 pounds for a liter-class superbike in 2001. The current GSX-R 1000R costs over $17,000, makes 200 horsepower with electronics doing half the riding, and weighs about 35 pounds more than the original. The original trusted you. Some would call that dangerous. Owners call it honest. Clean examples run $3,500 to $5,500. The kind of motorcycle people took to Laguna Seca on weekends and beat factory teams. The original GSX-R 1000 is pure intent without a single electronic apology. At number 13, an entirely different direction. 600cc of pure warfare for the street. Number 13, Kawasaki ZX-6R, 2005 to 2006. The 600 cubic centimeter super sport wars of the 2000s were the most insane peacetime engineering competition in motorcycle history. Every manufacturer attacking the same displacement limit with everything they had. The 2005 and 2006 Kawasaki ZX-6R is the bike that won that war on the street. 636cc, inline-4, 136 horsepower, with ram air, 164 miles per hour. Kawasaki gave it that extra 37cc because they cared more about street dominance than strict track homologation rules. The result was a mid-range punch so immediate and violent that first-time riders consistently reported that the bike felt alive in a way that modern fuel-injected middleweights simply do not replicate. A new ZX-6R costs about $12,000 and makes 127 horsepower. 6 more horsepower for $10,000 more. The 2005 weighs less, has a chassis tuned for human feel rather than electronics compensation, and costs a fraction of the modern equivalent. That is the correct choice. A clean example runs $3,000 to $4,500. 121 horsepower, aggressive ergonomics, and a throttle response that will remind you why you started riding. The ZX-6R dominated the super sport class with surgical precision. At number 12, a completely different philosophy, more displacement, more drama, and a Honda pedigree that made it feel like it was sent from the future. Number 12, Honda CBR 929RR 2000 to 2001. Honda looked at the 900 cubic centimeter class at the dawn of the century, decided the competition was not frightened enough, and built this. The CBR 929RR arrived in 2000 and immediately established that Honda's version of a sports bike was going to operate by completely different rules than everyone else's. 929cc, inline 4, 150, horsepower, 175 miles per hour. Honda channeled high-pressure air from twin intake scoops in the nose of the fairing directly into the airbox. At speed, this system added measurable power on top of the stated output because the engine was breathing pressurized air rather than ambient air. Honda borrowed it from Formula One and dropped it onto a production motorcycle at the turn of the millennium. Modern sport bikes in this range cost $10,000 to $14,000 and arrive with ride modes designed to prevent you from experiencing the bike. The 929RR communicates everything directly. Nothing filtered, nothing managed. It is just you and the motorcycle. Clean examples run $3,000 to $5,000. Honda engineering from the era when Honda was trying to impress you rather than protect itself from liability. If that like button is looking tempting right now, hit it. This list only gets more unhinged from here. The 929RR was Honda showing off. At number 11, a completely different nationality of showing off. Italian showing off, which involves leather, drama, and an engine design that should probably not be legal. Number 11, Ducati, 999, 2003 to 2006. Pierre Terblanche designed the Ducati 999, and everyone had feelings about it. Some called it ugly, some called it revolutionary, some did both simultaneously. 20 years later, the consensus is clear. This is one of the most technically brilliant motorcycles ever produced, and the people who called it ugly were wrong. 998cc L-twin, 124 horsepower on the standard and 143 on the S version. What made this special? The desmodromic valve actuation system. Ducati uses mechanical fingers to open and close the valves instead of valve springs. At high revs, conventional valve springs can float and fail. Ducati's Desmo system eliminates valve float completely because there are no springs to float. The valves are mechanically forced through their cycle. This is why they feel different from anything else on the road. A new Panigale 5.2 costs over $18,000. A 999S with full service history costs about $7,000. Nearly identical power output, a more involving riding experience, superior steering geometry for track use, and the specific pleasure of owning what Ducati replaced because it was too aggressive for mainstream buyers. That is a personality type, and it is correct. Clean examples with service history, $5,500 to $9,000. The demo service interval cost is real and must be factored into the purchase. Subscribe to the channel right now. We do this every week, and it only gets better. The 999 is Italian engineering delivered without compromise. At number 10, another Italian manufacturer that most people cannot spell and even fewer have actually ridden. Their loss is spectacularly your gain. Number 10, Aprilia RSV Mille R, 2001 to 2003. Aprilia built the RSV Mille R for one reason: to humiliate the Japanese superbike manufacturers on their home turf. A V-twin from Italy taking on inline fours from Japan. The fact that the Aprilia frequently succeeded makes this one of the most under-discussed motorcycles in the history of the 2000s. 998cc, 60-degree V-twin, 139 horsepower, and the frame-mounted fairing subframe. Aprilia mounted the bodywork on a separate subframe that bolts to the main chassis rather than the engine. This means the fairing absorbs zero engine vibration. At speed, the RSV Mille R felt impossibly smooth for a V-twin because the vibration was engineered away from every surface the rider touches. Modern manufacturers are still figuring out how to do this as elegantly. A Tuono V4 factory costs over $23,000. The RSV Mille R, $5,000. Parts are harder to find, maintenance is more specialized, and ownership will test your commitment. Owners call that not a deal breaker, but a feature. A clean example runs $4,000 to $7,000. Italian V-twin superbike performance for the price of a decent used pickup truck. The Aprilia community is small, obsessive, and will immediately adopt you if you show up with one. The Mille R was Aprilia's declaration of war against the establishment. At number 9, a different kind of war, against boring naked bikes everywhere, with 953 cubic centimeters of pure street aggression. Number 9, Kawasaki Z1000, 2003 to 2006. The naked bike segment had a before and an after. After was the 2003 Kawasaki Z1000, which looked like it was designed by someone who was furious about something and had access to CAD software. 953cc, inline 4, 127 horsepower, 155 miles per hour, and the offset lay-shaft gearbox. Kawasaki positioned the gearbox output shaft off-center from the conventional axis, which allowed the engine to sit lower in the frame than the power output numbers would normally permit. The result was a center of gravity low enough that the Z1000 handled with a precision that contradicted its aggressive visual appearance completely. It looked like a brawler. It rode like a scalpel. A new Z900 costs about $10,000 and makes 125 horsepower. 2 horsepower less than the 2003 Z1000. The older bike is rawer, louder, and communicates everything in a way that modern chassis technology has been specifically designed to eliminate. Some call that progress. Z1000 owners call it personality removal. On the used market right now, $3,000 to $5,000. Aggressive styling, legitimate horsepower, and the specific satisfaction of riding a machine that influenced every naked bike that came after it. The Z1000 invented the modern street fighter aesthetic. At number 8, somewhere completely different. 3 cylinders, a sound you can feel in your sternum, and an argument that British engineering never actually stopped mattering. Number 8, Triumph Speed Triple, 2005 to 2007. There is a sound this motorcycle makes at 8,000 RPM that can't be adequately described in words. The only way to understand the 2005 Speed Triple is to ride one and spend the rest of your life trying to explain to people who have not why it affected you the way it did. 1,050cc, inline triple, 130 horsepower, and the inline triple firing interval. A 3-cylinder engine fires at unequal intervals compared to a 4-cylinder. At any given RPM, a triple has a firing pulse gap that is longer than a 4-cylinder, but shorter than a twin. This produces a unique acoustic signature, deep enough to feel physical, sharp enough to cut through traffic noise. Triumph invented it and still own it. A new street triple RS costs over $14,000 and is technically superior in almost every measurable way. The 2005 Speed Triple costs about $4,500 and is superior in every way that cannot be measured. The involvement, the acoustic character, the physical conversation between bike and rider. Modern engineering optimizes these things away. The 2000s Triple had them naturally. A clean speed triple runs $4,000 to $6,000, $500, 3 cylinders, 130 horsepower, and the sound that ruins all other motorcycles for anyone who hears it once. The Speed Triple is British engineering refusing to be reasonable. At number 7, Japanese engineering refusing to make sense at all, in the most magnificent possible way. Number 7, Yamaha MT-01, 2005 to 2012. Yamaha built this motorcycle and nobody knew what to do with it. Press writers wrote confused reviews. Customers stood next to it at dealerships, stared at the engine, and went home to think about it. 15 years later, the MT-01 is recognized as one of the most original motorcycles ever produced, and the people who bought one when they were confused are now very smug. 1,670 cc, 48-degree air-cooled V-twin, pulled directly from the Roadstar Warrior Cruiser. The power figure is 90 horsepower, which sounds underwhelming until you see the torque figure, 111 pound-feet. More torque than most modern SUVs. What you should watch out for is the massive air-cooled pushrod V-twin, a heavyweight cruiser engine stuffed into a naked sport bike chassis. Nothing new available today in this configuration. The closest modern Yamaha is the XSR900 at 119 horsepower and about 65 pound-feet of torque. The MT-01 produces nearly twice that torque. Off the line in urban traffic, it does something that makes riders use words they do not normally use in mixed company. Find one for $5,000 to $8,000 if you can. Limited production, rare in the United States. Owners do not sell them. When one appears, it sells immediately. The waiting list is informal, but it is real. Drop a comment below with the number of times you have had to explain this motorcycle to someone who does not understand why a 90 horsepower bike could be more exciting than a 200 horsepower one. We read every single comment. The MT-01 is Yamaha losing its mind in the best possible way. At number 6, Honda refusing to lose its mind for 40 years and somehow making that more impressive. Number 6, Honda VFR 800, 5th gen, 1998 to 2001. Honda has been building the VFR in one form or another for so long that it has become part of the geological record. The 5th generation is the one that perfected the formula and brought gear-driven V4 majesty right to the turn of the century. 782 cc, 90-degree V4, 110 horsepower. Every other motorcycle in history uses either a timing belt or a cam chain to transfer rotation from the crankshaft to the camshafts. The VFR 800 uses gears, metal gears meshing directly, no chain to stretch, no belt to crack. Just gears, and gears do not wear out in any time frame a human being is likely to witness. Honda used this system across every VFR generation. It has never meaningfully failed. A new Honda NT 1100 costs over $14,000 and makes 102 horsepower from a parallel twin. The VFR 800 makes 110 horsepower from a V4 with gear-driven cams, a multi-decade refined chassis, and an exhaust note that is clearly not an accident. It is a choice. A clean VFR 800 runs $4,000 to $6,500. The community has documented examples exceeding 100,000 miles on original engines. The gear-driven cams just keep meshing. The VFR 800 is the most refined sport tourer ever built, and the market has decided to price it like a used economy car. At number 5, the opposite of sensible, and the price reflects it, but only barely. Number 5, MV Agusta F4 1000R, 2006 to 2009. MV Agusta was bankrupt in the 1990s. They were revived, and eventually Claudio Castiglione decided the appropriate response was to build one of the most beautiful and technically elaborate motorcycles in production history. This was not a rational business decision. It produced the F4, and the F4 made rationality irrelevant. 998 cc, inline 4, 174 horsepower on the 1000R variant. Ferrari engineers, who were briefly involved in the engine development, specified valve angles in the combustion chamber that are arranged radially rather than in the conventional paired layout. This geometry produces a more centrally located spark plug position, improving burn efficiency and heat management. MV Agusta did it anyway because it was technically correct, and they are Italian, and that is how they operate. A new MV Agusta F4 RC costs over $45,000 and is visually derived from this machine. A clean F4 1000R from 2007 costs approximately $9,000. Both use inline-4 engines with radially mounted valves. Both are Italian. Both will require your full attention during maintenance. One costs 5 times as much. The older one sounds better because it has an under-seat exhaust system that was tuned by people who understood what theater sounds like. Prices run $8,000 to $14,000, depending on mileage and service history. Find documentation of valve clearance services at every specified interval before buying. This is non-negotiable. A well-maintained F4 is a jewel. A neglected one is an expensive education. The F4 is Italian insanity with Ferrari engineering consultancy. At number 4 is the bike that broke the land speed record for production motorcycles before a group of embarrassed manufacturers called a meeting and agreed to stop. Number 4, Suzuki Hayabusa, first generation, 1999 to 2007. In 1999, Suzuki released a production motorcycle that could do 194 miles per hour. The response from governments was immediate and loud. The response from buyers was to put every example on back order before anyone had ridden one. 1,299 cc, inline-4, 175 horsepower, claimed top speed 194 miles per hour before the voluntary speed limiter agreement reduced it to 186 for later units. Suzuki spent extensive wind tunnel development time on the Hayabusa's fairing design. The organic, almost biological shape was not a styling exercise. Every curve, every vent, every surface transition, calculated to reduce drag at speeds other motorcycles cannot achieve. The name Hayabusa is Japanese for peregrine falcon. Suzuki was not being subtle. The second-generation Hayabusa, released in 2021, costs over $18,000 and makes about 187 horsepower, with comprehensive rider electronics managing every output. The first generation makes 175 horsepower with no electronics between you and the engine. Every one of those horsepower arrives at the rear wheel unfiltered. The experience is categorically different. Owners of first-generation Hayabusas describe the power delivery as something that requires genuine respect, which is a polite way of saying it will absolutely hurt you if you are careless. A first-generation Hayabusa runs $5,000 to $9,000 on the used market, the most legendary production motorcycle of the entire decade. The bike that made a consortium of manufacturers agree to limit top speeds because one company built something that frightened everyone else. The Hayabusa is the bike that ended the top speed wars. At number 3, actual racing championships on a configuration that nobody believed could beat 4 cylinders. It did, repeatedly. Honda brought receipts. Number 3, Honda RC51 RVT-1000R, 2000 to 2006. Honda built a V-twin, entered it in AMA Superbike racing, won the championship in the year 2000, won it again, went to World Superbike and won that too. The motorcycle you could actually buy was the RC51, one of the most significant motorcycles Honda has ever built. 999 cubic centimeters, 90-degree V-twin, 136 horsepower. What made this bike special? The PGMFI fuel injection and the dual side-mounted radiators. Instead of putting the radiator in front of the engine where it blocks airflow, Honda split it in two and mounted them on the sides of the fairing to maximize aerodynamics. Honda rearranged the entire cooling layout and then sold it to the public. A Ducati Street Fighter V, two costs over $18,000. The RC51 costs $6,000. Both V-twin sport bikes, approximately 136 horsepower. The Honda has factory championship credentials, a side-mounted cooling setup the owner will spend 20 years explaining at bike nights, and the specific pleasure of owning something that proved everyone wrong. A clean RC51 runs $5,500 to $9,000. The underseat exhaust means heat management around the tail section requires attention. A known quantity, not a mystery. Drop a comment below telling us which 2000s bike you owned, or still think about at 3 in the morning. We are deeply curious and we read all of it. The RC51 rewrote racing history with a V-twin. At number 2, the redefinition of what 600cc could do when Honda's closest rival decided the answer was 17,500 RPM. Number 2, Yamaha YZF-R6, 2006 to 2007. The 600 cubic centimeter class in the mid-2000s was a knife fight in a phone booth, and Yamaha brought a katana. The 2006 to 2007 R6 is the motorcycle that redefined what a middleweight could be by deciding that the correct answer to every engineering question was more RPM. 599cc, inline-4, 120 horsepower, and a red line of 17,500 revolutions per minute. Display that last number in massive numbers on screen. 17,500 RPM from 599cc, the highest red line of any production 600 in history, achieved through titanium intake valves, a crankshaft with less rotational inertia than some competing bikes' clutch assemblies, and a throttle body diameter that made fueling engineers stare at the blueprints in quiet disbelief. The sound at 17,500 RPM is not associated with street motorcycles. It is associated with Formula One cars and very angry Hornets. You do not hear it so much as experience it simultaneously in your chest cavity and sinuses. The current R6 is only sold in race homologation versions in many markets and starts at over $12,000 in configurations that cannot be ridden on public roads. A clean example runs $3,500 to $5,500, 17,500 RPM, titanium valves, and a motorcycle that treats the red line as a suggestion to start paying attention. At number 1, Kawasaki engineers removed the traditional frame from their superbike and replaced it with something that the word frame does not fully describe. A motorcycle that should not work and demonstrably does. Number 1, Kawasaki Ninja ZX-12R, 2000 to 2006. Kawasaki's answer to the Hayabusa: eliminate the concept of a conventional frame entirely. The ZX-12R arrived in 2000 with a monocoque aluminum chassis. The body is the frame, no separate frame tubes. This is how aircraft are built. Kawasaki applied it to a street motorcycle and sold it for the price of a sensible mid-size car. 1,199cc, inline-4, 178 horsepower claimed, 186 miles per hour after the voluntary speed agreement. The aluminum skin panels carry the structural load directly. The engine bolts to the monocoque. Suspension pickups machined directly into the bodywork. Significant weight saved, polar moment lowered, chassis stiffness that conventional frames cannot approach. Owners consistently describe the ZX-12R as the most confidence-inspiring, high-speed machine they have ever piloted. Not the fastest, not the lightest, but the one that felt most planted and honest at velocities that would require a dedicated discussion with a therapist if described to a non-rider. When the chassis does not flex, the feedback does not lie. Kawasaki does not make anything like this anymore. The current Ninja H2 makes 228 horsepower and costs about $30,000. The ZX-12R costs $4,000 to $7,000 with the monocoque chassis, the 178 horsepower engine, and the historical significance of answering the Hayabusa with an entirely different engineering philosophy. On the used market right now, it costs $4,000 to $7,000. Kawasaki removed the frame and the motorcycle worked better. That is the 2000s motorcycle industry operating at absolute peak confidence and absolute peak capability. 15 machines. 15 engineering arguments for why the 2000s were not the beginning of the era we are living in now. They were the peak of the era that came before it. Every bike on this list was built when manufacturers were competing for your respect rather than your safety score. When power was the goal and electronics were the enemy. When a motorcycle that scared you was a feature and not a bug. Continue the ride and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. See you on the road. Vroom, vroom.